Starring Carl.
Dear Mr. I'm too good to write back to my fans.
Isn't it amazing how Stan worked its way into the jargon of a generation? You know, we Stan.
It's like opinions about Eminem aside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I kind of think the same way about Eminem as I do Matt Pat. They are forces of nature for culture, and they have had an indelible effect, and that cannot be disputed.
Yeah. I mean, all I can argue is that having met Matt Pat once or twice and had long conversations with him, he's actually a pretty decent guy, like in person. Yeah. So just putting that out there.
Everyone look out for my epic rap battles of Eminem versus Matt Pat. Are those still a thing?
Epic rap? I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
It's because you can't break them down into TikTok-sized chunks, really.
True.
Man,
expensive.
I'm really glad Eminem got off of drugs, but I miss Eminem on drugs.
Yeah, I haven't really liked a song maybe since Rap God, but like, good for him. You know, whatever.
Yeah,
he'll occasionally release something I like, but fucking a lot of it is buried in this fucking dad joke rap he keeps doing.
The irony of calling out Will Smith and then kind of just rapping like Will Smith.
Yeah, well, you know, age has finally caught up with Marshall Mathers, you know.
We got a story to read.
We do have a story to read. Welcome to Understand Analysis. And if you stand our podcast, thank you for doing this with us. I reiterate, as my charming and handsome co-host has reiterated time and again, this is a dumb show where we read stories that are way above the level of quality we put into this show. And a lot of that is because, unfortunately, because we're now all, you know, in our 30s and are, you know, working all the time and handling shit in our daily lives, we're all very tired most of the time. So we're all not maybe, well, I can't speak for Alan. I know Abysmii and I are both pretty exhausted from a long day. And me, specifically burn out from hearing like every hour on the hour for several minutes, several children screaming Gen Alpha slang, which is fine. I'm used to it now, but they also don't know how to use Gen Alpha slang correctly. They're just doing it because it's cool. So, they're just kind of going up and they're not even thinking about it. They're just emulating what they hear because they're not thinking. It's all about, okay, I got to stop.
On the one hand, I'm being carried by a single 4-hour nap I've had in the past, like 36 hours.
Shit.
On the other hand, I, right before we recorded, like 20 minutes before we recorded, pounded a Ghost energy drink. So that's probably has a lot to do with it.
There you go. I'm very very happy for you, Alan.
And now I'm having tea. Hold on.
Tea sounds good.
Tea's grown cold. Wondered why.
Talked about Batman and 9/11 too long.
Tune in for the dregs for that one. But hey, since we're here, let's talk about the second place.
Yes, tune into the dregs for that thrilling conversation.
Hey, do you want more of the same shit we do all the fucking time on dregs?
They keep paying us.
About Batman and 9/11.
It's always Batman and 9/11 with a healthy dash of Todd Howard thrown in for good measure.
Oh, Todd.
Todd, damn it. So this is the second place winner of our new Pulp Fiction Writing Challenge. Once again, we have come out very strong. This was a tough decision. We deliberated. If you want to hear more about that process, listen to the last episode. But we're here now to deliver the second place winner to you. And the title of this story, which you've already seen in the title of the episode, is No Further Communication. And then the rest of the episode is just silence because there's no further communication.
That's it, yeah.
Hey, the person who picked this as their first place story, since we've established that's how we got our top 3.
Yes.
You wanna talk about that a little bit?
I figure we could talk about it after we go through it because I feel like it needs to be demonstrated. Why this is my first place pick, and I think that's just achieved by reading it.
And at the end, as was last time, I will reveal the author of this story. But we'll wait till the end to do that.
Wonderful.
I think that's more fun. It's like putting a neat little surprise at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Which of us shall start?
I'll go first.
Okay, this was your first pick.
I can't wait to find out this was written by Todd Howard.
Yes, because he really
does listen to this show.
He really needs $50. He really needs $50 from us.
Hey Todd, you've joined the big three of the guests we need on this show. It's number one is Dronian.
Number two is K. Applegate.
K. Applegate,
which means both authors, both.
Yeah.
Because yes, K. Applegate is two people.
The husband-wife duo, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, Todd Howard.
All right.
If we could get them all in one confusing episode, that would also be great.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
They'll have to read Smile Dog.
Again?
Yep.
Todd has the money to bail us out if
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, no further communication. This is a epistolary style. Cuthbert, Faulkner County, Mississippi, Tuesday, September 8th, 1934, which is smack dab in the middle of a very good pulp era, so good choice of year.
Mm-hmm.
My dear friend.
Year for pulp.
Very
swine.
good. My dear friend, I would first and foremost begin by apologizing for the extended period of time that has elapsed since I have last written to you. I very much wish this letter was being sent for better reasons. However, circumstances have arisen recently that demand your attention in the matter. I have no desire to cause you any alarm, but over the last few weeks I have noticed a marked change in your uncle's behavior. I have spoken with several people who have dealings with him, and they all have also reported similar shifts in his mannerisms. Normally, I would not disturb you about such developments as these, but I fear they are so drastic as to warrant it.
We both are well acquainted with the fact that he has always been a fair bit on the eccentric side. We both remember the incident that happened surrounding Mr. Bartleby and that curious volume he was selling. But I recently encountered him in the hallways rambling about some dream he had. He spoke with conviction and was wildly gesturing as he talked. But I swear to you there was no one there. Not a soul. I do not believe he noticed me, as I backed myself around a corner while he was still thoroughly distracted with this conversation of his. I tell you, it was then and there that my curiosity was piqued, so I waited for him to stop his incoherent outbursts so I could investigate just what manner of dream would provoke such a frantic state in an otherwise stable mind.
Although I have known your uncle for a good many years now, this was the first time I have felt any sort of trepidation approaching him. For as long as I can remember, he had been such a gentle and kind lad, but I feared the worst for him now. Oh, how I prayed that I was overreacting, but alas, to not arouse his suspicions, I waited and approached his office with a story about how I have been going around campus looking for a piece of misdelivered mail. You should have seen the state of his affairs. Strewn about his desk and almost every available surface were typewritten pages, though I know not why even he ever was loath to pick up a pen and record his notes about anything, since his handwriting rivaled that of a doctor's. And a few crude and unusual drawings I was unfortunate enough to glimpse. I dare not recount their horrifying contents at length, as simply thinking about what I saw sickens me to my core. I cannot recall ever seeing anything of his in a condition other than pristine, as he was fastidious and would be sent into a panic over germs, let alone such disarray.
I just remembered a story from my childhood that I related to what was just said that I need to get out of my system very quickly. So I have a condition where I have tremors when I try and write, or when I'm trying to focus too hard on doing something, my hands shake. So once upon a time, a teacher told me, and I thought they were giving me at first a compliment about me being intelligent, was, "Wow, Alan, you should really be a doctor." And I was like, "Really? Why?" And he was like, "Your handwriting's terrible."
Oh, no.
I was like, "Great. Cool. That is a really great and cool thing to say."
I'm left-handed for writing. And when I was learning to write in school, my teachers were like, no, just write right-handed. Like, for some reason, they just wouldn't teach me to write left-handed. So my handwriting sucks ass because I never learned properly. And I had asshole teachers. And
Naturally.
the common joke was, oh, is he going to be a lawyer? Oh, is he going to be a doctor? And now that I'm looking back, I'm like, that's not funny.
No.
It's not. I suck at writing, and it's your fault. Whatever.
How dare.
Imagine if I'd gone into it and been like, oh, it's because I almost died as a baby. Yeah, I had spinal meningitis, and they gave me a spinal tap as a child, so I had some nerve damage.
Shit's brutal.
Alan, that explains why you're always up to 11.
Is that funny? Is it funny that my handwriting is bad now?
You know who else had really bad handwriting, though?
Whom?
Actually, former President Herbert Hoover. At my workplace, there is a postcard from him that was mailed to us. And it's on prominent display. And many people try to read it, and they get like halfway through it and go, wow, this is shit. I can't read this.
You could be an unpopular president.
And also have terrible handwriting.
To sub tangent this tangent briefly, because fucking Spinal Tap just got brought up. I rewatched Princess Bride for the 11 millionth time. And notice that Christopher Guest's character's fingers go up to 11.
I didn't know that.
Oh, there it is.
Because he has six fingers on one hand. So Nigel Tufnell's amps go up to 11, and Count Rugen's fingers go up to 11, and they're both played by Christopher Guest. So,
but only one of them killed Inigo Montoya's father.
True.
Yes,
so.
Nigel Tufnell did that.
Mm-hmm.
In jest, I asked if he was working on some midterm grading, and he told me these were just his notes on a topic he was researching. Alan, your uncle is the mathematics professor here. What research could he possibly be doing on such ghastly creatures, Alan?
My uncle's not a mathematics professor.
That you know. He moonlights. After this exchange, he seemed rather nervous, and so to assuage his fears, I thought to ask if he had been having strange dreams. He, however, seemed to be catching on somehow. His eyes started to dart around the room, moving from the documents to me and so forth. Thinking quickly and knowing this was my one opportunity to get my hands on any concrete proof of his abnormal behavior, I kept him distracted while I loosened the latches on my briefcase and allowed their contents to tumble out all over the floor when I knocked it against the desk. Oh, how embarrassing.
Oh no, what a goof. Womp womp.
As he helped.
Yep.
As he helped me gather my belongings, I placed my case on top of his papers and grabbed a few of the nearest ones as he reached under his desk to retrieve my spectacles. I tucked them amongst the depths of the other papers and feigned that I had only then realized the time. I dispensed with some pleasantries about troubling him and asked that he let me know if he happens upon my missing parcel. Enclosed with this letter are the pages I stole from your uncle. I wish to give you my sincerest apologies for this, but again, I believe this to have been in everyone's best interest, so not to seem as a madman as I fear him to have become. I hope the both of you can forgive me. Kindest regards, Albert Mitchell.
Mitchell!
Mitchell.
So that's the first letter. That's our prefacing letter.
Yes.
And it certainly sets up a lot.
And as we continue, we get, just as he says, pages that he took from our protag's uncle. And I really like the fact that it is just, it starts with half a sentence. You are completely getting this out of order.
Right.
Which I think is really cool. We're reading attachments to the main story, which is always interesting.
Yeah, we're only getting a glimpse. And even then, probably not ever really the complete picture, because we are getting this third hand, basically. We're getting third hand information.
Mm-hmm.
In that essence, I'll start. It's going to kick off in the middle of this long typewritten document, just halfway through. Not even sure what page number this is. I will acknowledge too, what's nice is that it has different, same kind of, same very similar like typeface, but like slightly different. So you get the sense that it is a different document, which is very cool. All right, drawing nearer to my destination. It now loomed before me, a great and colossal dome of impossible construction, one that stretched upward far beyond my sight into the murky waters. Rapture! I could feel the crushing weight of the waters on my shoulders as I pushed forward, except oddly, they did not slow me in the slightest. I was the most peculiar sensation I hope to never forget.
That's a typo.
That typo. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's crazy, Alan. Your uncle is crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Though I know not how I was breathing, I could see the bubbles from my exhalations escaping into the yawning darkness around me, illuminated only by the lights from the great city contained in its glass cage. I stood there for a moment, captivated by the way the foam floated away from me, intermingling with the faint rays of sunlight that scarcely penetrated the depths as they faded away against the azure abyss. As they disappeared from my sight, I turned my gaze to marvel at the intricate lattices of what looked to be a mixture of coral and barnacles reinforcing the great shell. Ugh, barnacles. I hate barnacles, said Charles Darwin famously.
As I drew nearer still, I glanced about to gather my surroundings and found many curious sights. Where I would have expected some manner of sea plants clinging to the ocean's floor were instead scintillating threads of beaded gelatinous orbs wobbling with the ambient currents, almost indistinguishable in color from the teal haze of the sea. I gently placed my hand upon one of them. Why would you do that? And it retracted much like a fern, the pearled column shrinking into the sand and kicking up a small cloud of glistening dust. As I stood, otherwise transfixed, I scarcely caught movement out of the corner of my eye. Turning, I saw what one might consider to be a crab. Although it lacked any sort of clawed appendages, it most certainly had a robust carapace and a segmented mouthpiece not dissimilar to the ones of which I was familiar. Two great and colorless spheres rotated in their sockets, and I took them to be the creature's eyes, although I could not fathom how it used them, unless they were more akin to the compound eyes of flies and other such noxious insects. I wished I could have ascertained with any measure of certainty additional information about this being, but it, just as quickly as it had been noticed, skittered away on an uncountable set of spindly legs. It was only as it hurried away that I noticed a gaping void in the back of its head with a cluster of jagged filaments softly pulsing with a bluish light. I stared in amazement as the color faded away in the darkness, far beyond the dome.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. Before I read, I just want to say, David triggered me. I don't talk about it a lot, but there is a single video game I've probably beaten more. There are very few games I've played through in their entirety multiple times. Probably the game I've played through the most. Well, David said Rapture, and my brain went, a city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality. And I was like, shut up, brain.
Where the weak would not be constrained by the small, and with the sweat of your brow, Rapture can be your city as well.
Yep, I've played through that game many, 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 many times.
It's a really good game.
I made reference to this on my latest fog report that I posted, and I'll put a link somewhere in the description if anyone reads this. One of the mazes on the Queen Mary is so BioShock adjacent. It's incredible. It was really good.
Cool.
Because it literally feels like you're going through medical.
It's got the
Art Deco thing. It's got the masked doctor who's performing unethical experiments and surgery. It's got the second half of the maze has a Art Deco Halloween party. It's really good. It's
BioShock,
really good.
BioShock is the game series that, like, I've talked multiple times on Jameson tapes about how I used to be a complete bitch when it came to jump scares, but came around to accepting that sometimes they are earned. BioShock is the game that made me realize that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I will never forget, like, the first time I played BioShock, which was completely blind, not knowing anything about the game. A couple of people I knew sat me down in front of the computer and said, we're not explaining anything about this, just play it. And I remember standing at the door of the lighthouse, being afraid to go in.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Similar.
Just survived a plane crash. There was this lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. I could very, very, very faintly hear from the inside La Mer. And I was just like, I don't like this environment. And I literally got jump scared by the lights coming on. And there's the bust of Andrew Ryan hovering over you. No gods or kings, only man. And I never forgot how captivating it was to slowly push through my trepidation with games like this to eventually reach the bathysphere and see this Art Deco underwater city. And I look at my friends, I'm like, what the fuck is this game? This is incredible.
Content with the amount of distractions Alan had created, I had encountered.
All of us, really.
I pressed onward, and though my movement was sluggish, reached the edge of the city's protective barrier. I spent a few moments examining the totality of the expansive construct, but could not find any form of entrance to the fortification. At that point, I had half a mind to continue my journey around the perimeter, and I would have most certainly done so were it not for the sudden emergence from the cloying stillness of an unholy abomination. I first ascertained its presence by the great dread it cast upon me. It felt as though something vile was gliding over me, and, upon looking up, I saw a massive spherical shape, with dozens, no, hundreds of undulating tendrils that whipped and thrust several feet in every direction.
It hovered at a distance behind me, almost stationary. I froze in place until it looked at me. The whole of its body was a massive, piercing eye, with a pill-shaped iris that glowered in my direction. Fucking sick. With an inaudible gasp and a release of frothy bubbles, I aimed to take a cautious step back. What I had failed to realize, however, was that there was another sleeping crab thing in my path. Stumbling without any semblance of coordination, I fell backwards into the cloche?
I think it's cloaky, but I could be wrong.
Cloaky. Art. I fell backwards into Art Cloaky. I ruined his Gumby shot. He was very angry with me. Where I thought my body would slam into solid glass, I instead was met with a most peculiar sensation as I fell through a slimy membrane and went tumbling onto my back on the hard ground inside the structure. The horrid eye being rushed toward me and bounced off the exterior. I could not discern an expression on its glassy frame, but from the wild thrashing I was certain it was enraged. It repeatedly threw itself against the gelatinous expanse, its tentacles gripping and pulling on the framework. I scrambled to my feet and made a quick escape toward the nearest building. Goddamn slicers.
I scarcely had time to notice the dryness of the air inside, nor did I think to check if my passage had left any unpleasant residue on my person, before I had found myself at the entrance of a tall, almost industrial complex. The rough facade was made of some unknown material, but it reminded me of the texture of shark skin as I pushed the knobless door open with a pressurized hiss. I cast a quick glance back to see the nightmare was still rocking itself against the dome. Panting, I fell to my knees and my mind swam with questions, though I knew I had no time to dwell on any of them. I felt an urge, an instinct. I had to find someone here for aid or, failing that, some manner of defending myself. Whether I was too meek to cry out for assistance or too afraid to speak, I may never know. In courage's absence, I sought protection on my own terms, whatever form that might take. My eyes quickly adjusted to the lighting in the room, a soft greenish glow emanating from strange organic fairy lights affixed to the ornate ceiling trim. The lights faded and grew in intensity at odd intervals, and in their wake I could see that the chamber I was in was lined with the waist-high shelves full of curious trinkets and alien stones, all arranged with a purpose that wholly escaped me.
Just wanted to point out that nor did I think to check if my passage had left any unpleasant residue on my person is a very, very articulate way of saying, I made sure I didn't think to check if I'd shit myself.
Well, this is a mathematics professor talking.
Yeah, true.
Taking a closer examination of the materials revealed them to be encased in a material not dissimilar to the shells surrounding the city. Testing my luck, I reached out and found my hand passing through with as much ease as before. I plucked a few items out and turned them over in my hands. The first object I selected was a rock with a spiraling lattice of angular crystals that seemed to hum as I held it. It glistened in the pale, mossy ambiance, with an oily sheen that reflected a hue of orange I had never seen. It made my skin itch, though not completely uncomfortably, and so I returned it to its housing.
It's exfoliating.
The next curiosity was the head of a silver monkey statue. The one after that appeared to be the body of a silver monkey statue. The third curiosity was the base of a silver monkey statue. I was confused about how all three of these pieces would go together.
What does it mean?
The next curiosity was a rectangular plank of wood that appeared to have been, for a lack of better term, sorted. The grains all lined up in perfect horizontal rows, arranged by thickness first and coloration second. Outwardly, it did not have any unusual qualities, though it gave me a sense of unease that prompted me to place it back.
It's Plank, before he was adopted by Johnny.
It's Plank's family.
Best friend.
Plank is an eldritch horror, for sure.
We all knew that.
Yeah.
Get your Ed, Ed and Eddie fan fiction out there. Your creepy Ed, Ed and Eddie creepypasta. Finally, I retrieved a necklace that hung from a stand, built to resemble a hand, though the digits it possessed were fractal. I needed to use it immediately to distract the temple guard that was jumping out at me. Sorry, going back to the silver monkey joke. Each finger broke off into smaller fingers, and it made me uncomfortable to gaze upon it for too long. The chain of this piece of jewelry was a jumbled mess of brass or bronze wires that looped and turned at odd angles without rhyme or reason and terminated in a small latched piece of rock with tiny pearlescent shells that looked to have been stretched in wild directions. Working to figure out the locking mechanism, I wound up knocking the trinket against a table, whereupon it opened with ease, though I had a feeling I had in some way damaged this gorgeous object. Although I was pained with a sense of regret over my actions, I steadied my hands and managed to pry it open with my fingers. Inside, I found it contained a small, curved portrait of what I immediately knew to be a woman, although I could not properly ascertain the species. Surrounding her was a carved series of what I assumed to be letters, though the design snaked and twisted in a manner that almost mocked any language I had ever encountered. The symbols, and they definitely were, judging by a few repeated shapes, glowed with a sickly green light that was darker than the ones hanging above me. She was hauntingly beautiful, with a fair chin, supple lips, and a head that disappeared into something that reminded me of a jellyfish bell. Wispy strands cascaded across her face and to her shoulders, the whole of her body a ghostly pale blue. Reflexively, I caressed the bas-relief as though I were stroking a real chin. At that moment, I felt as though I knew everything about her. Any questions in my mind had sunk to the back, replaced by a bittersweet longing for her.
There was an alien. It was definitely female. I have to fuck it.
It was really hot. Like, I just saw it, and I was just like, wow, I'd tap that.
Yep. As transfixed as I was, a commotion outside broke my reverie, and I reached for the door, hesitating as I feared for whatever was out there. Instead, I pushed forward into the building, entering and exiting room after room of inconceivable decoration and construction, moving through passageways until I found one of the windows. Cautiously, I peered out and saw a gathering of jellyfolk, holding spears and tridents, all practically dripping with multicolored tentacles. They were shouting in a garbled tongue at the monster that was still attempting to force its way in. I watched as they took aim with their weapons and was surprised when instead of throwing them, I saw flashes of pink light issue forth from the tips, with a series of noises that sounded like a man trying to warm his hands on a cold winter's day by blowing onto them. I looked back down toward the amulet I was tightly clutching, only to find my own linens wrapped in between my fingers. I was awake, my body absolutely drenched in a clammy sweat, as I shuddered with the reality that all this was a dream. So I don't remember most of my dreams. I really wish I had lucid dreams about jellyfish people shooting weird crab monsters. That sounds cool.
Weird eye crab monsters? Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, man.
Fun fact, I've been... One of the things my Fitbit does is monitor my sleep. Mm. And a good chunk of the reason why I don't remember many of my dreams is my REM sleep happens in the middle of my sleep cycle.
Oh, I wonder if I'm the same way.
People who remember their dreams tend to have their REM sleep towards the end of their sleep cycle, so it's fresher in their memory when they wake up.
That happens to me. I don't remember a lot of my dreams these days, but when I do, I'm like, oh, okay. I've had several dreams that have led to like legit inspiration for stuff, so that helps.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
You're good.
Welcome to the Jameson Tapes.
Okay, yeah. Wow. Hey, thanks for having me on as a guest for this episode.
We just watched Remember Me.
Alan, I was totally blindsided, but we can get into that at the end. But what the fuck, dude?
I thought it was great.
I mean, yeah, it was great, but what the fuck, dude?
It couldn't be, though.
It couldn't be, though. Got it.
Yeah.
It couldn't be, though. I refuse to let this be a dream. I can remember every detail, every inconceivable marking on that pennant. I know, right? I cannot forget her. I must return to sleep as quickly as possible so that I may have the chance to dream of this place again and find out who she is. I am writing this for myself so that I do not forget, as is the ephemeral nature of dreams. Yeah, I just talked about it. Though I am convinced that this will never fade from my mind. Maybe I am writing this down so that I can share it with others and see if anyone has had similar, I hesitate to call them visions, experiences. Yet I fear people would call me mad if they read this story. So let me begin my journal. I am writing in years.
There's a woman under the sea, and I have to have sex with her.
I can never forget. Guys, this is the weirdest pilot for Teddy Ruxpin, I'm telling you.
You guys want to know a thing I think about at least once a month?
Whoa.
Burial at Sea established that the canon ending of BioShock is the good ending, where Jack returns to the surface and like raises a bunch of the little sisters as his daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Does he ever get the implant that makes him talk like a Big Daddy removed? Because if he doesn't, Jack returns to the surface and lives out a quote-unquote normal life where he's just making whale noises all the time.
No, Dad, I haven't done my homework yet.
You know, the weird thing is, here's the crazy thing about BioShock Infinite, though. Every ending is canon.
Yeah.
Every ending is canon. And by that logic, every fanfic ever written about it is also canon.
I played BioShock Infinite when it came out, and I was like, that was really good. And I replayed it, like, during the pandemic, and I was like, that's not as good as I remember it being.
The early version, all the demo versions, canon.
Yeah.
How to make everything canon. Just have that be the focus of your story. Every possibility is infinite. Every Splinter universe is real. Jesus Christ. But yeah, that was pretty weird to think about. All right. We're moving to another journal entry.
Yeah, we're moving to August 17th, 1934. The previous entry didn't even have a date because we're in the middle of it. So we don't even know when that happened, which again is kind of cool. We're in medias res for this.
So this is about a month before the letter that was sent concerned about this guy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
August 17th, 1934. If it were not for these notes I have been recording for myself, I fear I might have lost track of time. I wish I had written down when I had that dream because I no longer know how much time has passed. Has it been days? Weeks? Was it yesterday? I haven't dreamt of that sublime city since, and I fear I may never. In fact, I do not dream at all. My doctor, though he does not know the full extent of the truth, assures me that this is all down to some manner of stress. Ha! If only he knew. No elixir he has prescribed, nor any sort of remedy that I have tried has brought me any closer to sleeping with any measure of restfulness. Maybe he is right, that I am preoccupied with teaching. Perhaps, just maybe, taking a break would be just what I need. I mean, I have tried to maintain my position at the university, but my thoughts keep wandering toward that woman. I can't get her out of my mind. That pale face, the outline of which is practically burned into my vision. Just yesterday, or so I pray it was only so long ago, I could have sworn I heard a soft whispering in the hallway of my building. That's eerie. I like that.
It is good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm horny because I'm stressed out, and I'm stressed out because I'm horny.
I need to get laid, but not by a human. I need a jellyfish woman.
Mm-hmm.
You must be Jam, because jelly don't shake like that.
August 19th, 1934. Louder. The whispering is louder. Is it even whispering now? I sat in my office grading papers, and I could hear this beautiful voice behind me. The library has no answers to the symbols or the location. Atlantis bears no semblance to what I saw. Need to look elsewhere, perhaps find an expert, someone I can trust to keep confidence on this matter.
The next letter is from Miskatonic University.
I have to take issue with just one section of that.
Okay.
Atlantis bears no semblance to what I saw. How the fuck you know what Atlantis looks like, my guy?
Well, I think this is in the universe where Miskatonic exists, and they have books about weird shit. That's how I interpreted that. Granted, they haven't said Miskatonic, but this is very Lovecraftian. So in Lovecraft, we can totally find ancient texts about shit that people thought was a rumor, but no, here it is.
Yep. But yeah, the Atlantis thing, I get that too, because it's usually people would envision it looking distinctly Grecian, which is always kind of weird to me because they were supposed to be a much more ancient society than that.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was an odd way to depict Atlantis. But
he clearly has seen the Atlantis Disney movie, and he's like, no, it didn't look like that.
Well, That was a cool way to depict Atlantis, I think.
That was a cool way. Yeah.
Criminally underrated movie, honestly.
Absolutely.
August 21st, 1934. While turning over the library for any possible leads, I stumbled upon last month's copy of Strange and Astounding Tales, which fortuitously contained an advertisement for paranormal consultations. At this point, I assured myself I stood to lose nothing of value in this endeavor. So I checked it out and took it home with me. Alright, if I ever ran a fucking pulp paranormal investigation role-playing game, I'd fucking, I think a plot point would be, like, similar to how, like, Men in Black utilize, like, tabloids to contain, like, actual news.
Hell yeah.
Like, pulp magazines would contain, like, advertisements and stuff that would lead you to, like, actual fellow people working in the paranormal field, and some of the stories are about shit that actually happened.
Absolutely.
That's a really cool idea, but yeah, for sure. Like I read this and I immediately go, "Oh, the professor's really losing it," because
he's reading pulp.
He's reading pulp, and he makes you wonder if he was reading, or he stumbled upon last month's copy of Strangers Now. So it doesn't establish that he was much of a reader of these before, but the fact that he's even going this far says a lot about his desperation to find anything. At least it's the way I read it.
Yeah. At this point, I assured myself I stood to lose nothing of value in this endeavor, so I checked it out and took it home with me. I spoke to a man who identified himself as an expert in the supernatural. But he was no help to me. He sounded as though he believed me, however, which is good. I cannot remember his name, though I believe it started with an M. Michael? Matthew? It does not matter. I gave him a fake name so as to protect my own. I cannot let anyone stop me from finding answers.
That feels significant.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the date's corrected on this one because he's like losing track of the days.
Yeah, that's a really good detail.
Yeah, we have a redacted August 21st, 1934, and actually August 23rd, 1934. I am fairly sure this is the correct date. Had to check my other notes. Getting harder to remember what I have been doing these days. Must keep it together. The voice that speaks to me is so loud and clear now. It was sharp, like a whistle that drilled deep inside my mind. I still cannot decipher what they are saying, but they sound angry now. Whenever I look behind to see if someone is there, the speech stops. They won't stop talking to me. I must look as though I have lost my mind, constantly turning around to look. I must stop. Do they know? I think I saw someone staring at me. I can't let them find out about any of this. I just know they will want to keep her for themselves. She is mine. She will be mine.
This is my favorite date ever that I wish I could put on so much correspondence at my job. Who cares? Time has no meaning. Nothing has any meaning. I yelled at the voice, really let them have it last night before bed, and I finally had a dream. I found myself standing in front of swirling clouds of murk and a massive pile of rubble that stretched as far as I could see. Dug through what I could by all I could hear. And by the way, I'm like mispronouncing or misstating things because they're actual intentional typos.
There's no punctuation and nothing is capitalized.
Dug through what I could by all I could hear was laughing at the utter futility of my efforts. The voice now condescendingly mocks me. It was all so beautiful, and I could feel hot tears streaming down my face. As I typed this, I can feel the water spilling from my eyes, flowing down my face in hot rivulets. The flavor of the sea, even my misery, reminds me of her. Now I will never again get to see its majesty. I can hardly remember anything about it. Even looking at the account of that first night brings only hollow recollection that seems to fade as soon as I put the pages down. How many times must I read that before I can remember? How many times? How many? I wish I could go back there. Has to be a way to fix this. I must find a way to fix this. Will I ever see her again? I just know my notes have something. I have missed some detail. I must go over my sketches of the woman and those symbols. If I can just figure out what they mean, I will be able to fix all this. Yes, I can fix this and be their savior. Only I can do this. No one can help me. No one can stop me. I must take the immediate leave, but will they let me? Doesn't matter. I must do anything for her. Please come back to me. Please, please come back. Cannot lose faith. Cannot lose hope. Cannot lose this memory of that place. Please come back to me. I would do anything. Anything to go back. Anything to see it again. Anything for her. I am hers. I will be hers.
Hey, chef kiss on the reading, too. That was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I can tell. Oh, that's amazing.
P.S.
By the way,
this isn't the last page. It's a bigger font than all the other fonts, and it's supposed to look handwritten.
Yeah,
Something of an afterthought, but I should mention that I shall be handing this letter off to my assistant promptly before talking to the dean about your uncle. It is clear to me, from what I have gathered, that he needs help. I do not believe I can persuade him at this juncture. However,
That's great.
Dean Martin will know what to do. If not him, I'm sure the rest. If not him, I'm sure the rest of the Rat Pack can deal with it.
What was his name? That's right, Sammy Davis Jr.
Wait, Martin. It's Dean Martin. He's a paranormal expert.
Here's to hoping he doesn't miss these insane ramblings. We'll keep you updated as best I can. A.M.
P.M.
AC.
Who is obviously Albert Mitchell, the individual who wrote the first letter.
And I assume we're meant to infer that the M that the uncle was talking about might have been Dean, comma, Martin.
It could be. Like, there's so much that's left out that we do not have even like a iota of all the pieces here. So who the fuck knows?
And really, the other thing too is this has no closure, like, whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, will there be another thing for this in a future volume of Strange and Astounding Tales?
Don't know.
Ooh.
So this is my first place because, excusing the meta reference to Strange and Astounding Tales and some other things, if you had given this to me, like, outside of this contest and said, like, oh, this is like, I copy pasted this from an actual issue of Weird Tales, I would probably believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my opinion, it is written like it's from a pulp magazine. It's incredibly descriptive. It's about going crazy from cosmic horror, and there's no closure. It's very, very much shaping off of Lovecraft, of course, but it does it very, very well. And it's just filled with just cool shit that probably doesn't mean a lot, but the dude's going crazy anyway. So in my opinion, this, is my first place choice because, you wrote something that sounds like pulp or like feels like pulp. Just 100%.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to highlight and I'm really trying to not put in my love of cosmic horror and literature into this because I read this and went, oh, fuck me. This is really, really pandering to me, but I'm going to read everything else. And like we've said, this was a really hard one to grade. Like, so many things vied for first place as I was going through the stories. So, but this one just went out in the end. I love how it's written. I love how we have a letter in the front, scattered notes in the middle, a handwritten PS at the back. It just feels immersive. And that's what I really, really value from this story.
It's very immersive. I really dig it. And I like epistolary stories a lot for those kind of reasons where you're having to infer a lot more about what's going on because of the nature of it. And it's just a really cool way to tell a story in general. And this is very expertly done. Like, I think even rereading it now, my appreciation for the story went up significantly again. And I've read it through a couple times since we kind of, did our evaluations. And I think this absolutely deserves the spot it does in the brackets. It's got such tantalizing little hints of things, and it puts you in the mindset, or it really, really does a good job putting you in the mindset of the protagonist because you're kind of desperate for some details too by the end of it.
Yeah.
But much like our protagonist, much like our nameless professor, you're not going to get him. There's no closure. You won't get it. And we don't even know if any of this is legitimate or just his madness, just from having this incredibly vivid, lucid dream. So for all of that, as someone who can also appreciate ambiguity in a story, but when ambiguity, it's a double edge because some people can try and put ambiguity in a story. I know I love to do that kind of thing in some stories. And I know that's come back to bite me. This does it well. This actually does ambiguity without having it feel like you're just leaving stuff out for the sake of leaving stuff out. It gives you the right amount of stuff to keep you keep you into the narrative, but leaves the right amount of things out to still make it work and always have that possibility just kind of floating in the ether. And that's a good sign of a short story. So
yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add that you guys didn't cover. Yeah. The whole letter writing format into the typewritten bit. I tried not to score aesthetics too high when I was grading these, but it is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's simple. It's kind of simple aesthetic choices, just having different fonts.
Yeah. It's an elegant but simple solution, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Our last story did something similar too, but again, I'm mostly evaluating these stories, and when I was evaluating them on the merit of the stories themselves. But little choices like that make a big difference. I mean, can make a difference in some cases. And while I can appreciate what was being done, so again, for an epistolary story, I agree. Like having the font changes was just a nice little like dollop of flavor on top of the whole thing.
And it is the reason I graded the last one so highly. But this also has the paid by the word feel.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
They both succeed very well with that.
And we have a lot of stories that were submitted, which are person finds monster. But like that's very pulp.
Yes,
tried and true.
This one almost feels a little bit more like monster finds person.
But they don't fall in love.
No, not like Ivory Horror. This one's about unfulfilled longing between human and monster.
Awful lot of monster banging in these stories.
Yeah. Let's not question too hard what it says about us. That
Oh, I know exactly what it says about me. I know what I'm reading.
I appreciate the honesty, all things considered. So shall I reveal the
yes, please.
The author? This is a Cleric of Madness story.
God damn, I should have known.
Yeah.
That makes all the sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much in Cleric's wheelhouse, I think.
Yeah, good job, Cleric.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Cleric, congratulations. You are the second place winner. Who will be the first place? Well, we're going to leave you in suspense on that one, too. But on the next episode of Undercooked Analysis, we will talk about the first place winner, read that story. But I also want to talk about our general thoughts on the other entries in the competition as well. We got enough that I think they all bear a nice little bit of discussion, so we can talk about the strengths of those as well. Because again, this was so difficult that it would be a disservice to you all if we didn't at least bring up our thoughts on all the pieces of fiction that were submitted and judged. So,
man, can you imagine the creative horror hear me out cake? Is everyone familiar, or am I the only one on TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok, but that does sound familiar. It probably leaked into something else.
Sade would probably know what you're talking about.
So it's basically it's a thing you can do. It's a gathering. You have a cake. Everyone has printed out pictures of their hear me out characters, and put them on sticks. So you each take turns going up to the cake and saying "hear me out" and putting your character that a fictional character. It doesn't always have to be a fictional character, but someone you'd fuck and you have to justify it.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who does not often get attracted to fictional characters, it's not a thing I do frequently. Tali started as a joke, but is so not a joke anymore.
So, oh man, so I have I play League of Legends now and then, but not even the main game mode anymore. I play one of the random ones they've made, because it's just an AFK thing that I don't have to pay attention to half the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I played League for a long time, so 10 years or something. I remember the old days where they were smaller and they didn't have like a robust team looking at people's screen names. So you had some pretty bad ones, and they eventually cracked down on it. Lately, there's not like horrible racist shit, but there's a lot of sexual stuff coming through.
Oh boy.
And two come to mind. And one of them is just, and I'm going to try to be verbatim about this. It's like, please don't hold me down and yiff me, daddy.
Oh, good.
I just read that and went, Jesus Christ, to let anything through these days. But the one that's irrelevant to our discussion right now is I fapped to Andariel. And I read that and went, you know what? Good on you, man. That's brave. Then I thought about it more and went, well, I mean, no, Andariel's hot. Like, that's not even a brave thing to say. She's tall, muscular, super powerful, has giant tits out. Oh my God. That was a sexual awakening for me when I was fucking 8. Oh no. So Abysmii's been attracted to fictional characters since he was a fucking preteen.
Hey, it's fair. It happens.
I also don't ship fictional characters very frequently.
Me neither.
But I played Gotham Knights.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to see Red Hood and Nightwing kiss each other.
God, that would be a weird scenario.
That would be weird.
Robin x Robin. And both of them are ex-Robins.
Oh, you're right. Ex-Robin, ex-Robin.
Ex-Robin, ex-Robin.
Ex-Robin, ex-Robin.
That's a triple X-Robin.
There it is. We got there.
Supplemental dregs. You're all welcome.
I love you guys.
I love you too, man.
Okay. Hey. Speaking of supplemental dregs, those are available to anyone who joins our Patreon, patreon.com/creative horror. It's one of the main things we put out there when we record a UCA episode. We cut off the beginning where we get all warmed up and loosey-goosey and ready to do this, and then we put them out there for you all to listen to. And you can just, if you think this show is dumb, you should hear the dregs. I mean, honestly. And the fact that you all keep paying us for that, kind of incredible. But we are deeply, deeply appreciative of all the support we've gotten over the years and the support we continue to get. We have a small but robust little community, and that community mostly gathers on the Creative Horror Discord, which is available to those who also join the Patreon. And I enjoy the conversations we have. It's been fun. Kayla and I this month have been sharing each song that's going onto our little Halloween Advent calendar playlist, where we each pick a song that gets added to the list a day. We neither of us know what we're going to pitch ahead of time, generally speaking. So it's a lot of fun. If you ever need a whole backlog of Halloween music, we have a list for you. My goodness. And a lot of it is fun, obscure stuff. Some of it's not so obscure, but it's just stuff we find that I think fits the mood. And of course, if you're listening to this show and you haven't listened to the other shows on the Creative Horror Network, we encourage you to do so. Even the shows that have finished. We're coming up on a year since I wrapped up Midnight Marinara. There's a nice, healthy backlog of those if you want to check those out. You can also, and in terms of updating shows, the Jameson tapes is back up and running again after a mild hiatus. And
handsome new editor.
Yes, the most handsome new editor. Which, by the way, I got to say, Blue Sunshine, fantastic episode. Love listening to it. Maybe not a great movie, but was a lot of fun to listen to. I enjoyed that Future Alan has joined the cast of editors for this, of editors from the future.
I called him Future Alan. I kind of have decided on a different name for him if he is utilized in the future. I think I'm just going to call him Sober Alan.
Yeah, you know what? That works.
Yeah, that's fair. I think both Future David and Future Marine have really got the title covered there. Of course, I haven't heard from Future David in a while.
True.
I hope he's enjoying his vacation wherever he is.
Yeah, in the future.
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinara, and this podcast is part of CreativeHorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at CreativeHorror.com.